How's it going there, folks? Welcome to what is sure to be another fun at-home table read. Tonight, we're jumping into one of my favorite underappreciated kind of horror movies, Drag Me to Hell, the first movie Sam Raimi did post the Spider-Man trilogy. I'm really excited for this one. I've been curious to kind of read the script for a while. So we're going to jump right in to introducing ourselves. I'm Logan. I'm going to be doing our action description tonight.
I'm Angie, and I'm Stephanie.
I'm George, and I'll be Ramjas.
I'm Travis playing Ray.
I'm Anne, and I'll be Mrs. Ganush. Sorry.
All right, well, here we go. Drag Me to Hell, written by Ivan Raimi and Sam Raimi. Interior bedroom before dawn. 22-year-old Stephanie Brown is jarred from a peaceful sleep as the alarm clock buzzes. She hits the snooze button and plops down onto the pillow. After a few seconds of pure sleeping bliss, she wills herself up. She moves through her IKEA-furnished bedroom, past a hang in there baby poster, and into the bathroom. Interior bathroom a moment later. Stephanie turns on the shower. While waiting for the water to heat up, she looks into the mirror and, with exaggerated pronunciation, recites,
There is no friction with proper diction. Good sounds abound when the mouth is round.
She catches herself on the last word, a hint of Missouri twang slipping through.
Round.
Yawn. She slips off her nightgown and lumbers into the steaming shower. Interior kitchen morning. She opens the refrigerator. A half a grapefruit sits next to an inviting slice of chocolate cake. She's tempted, but chooses the grapefruit. Exterior Ventura Boulevard parking structure morning. A sunny Southern California day. Commuters speed by. Stephanie's Ford Focus pulls into the parking structure across the street from the Bank of California. She steps from her car, smartly dressed for work, and walks briskly towards the intersection. A traffic signal changes to don't walk. A businessman next to her sprints across the street. Stephanie almost follows, but decides to obey the sign. She looks down to see a little kitten. It rubs against her ankle and purrs.
Oh, well, you're a little cutie.
Car horn blares, spooking the kitten. It darts into the intersection and freezes at the sight of the oncoming van. Stephanie races into the intersection, snatches up the kitten, and places it safely down on the other side of the street.
Hey, slow down.
The van roars past. She pets the kitten. It purrs and licks Stephanie's face. She sets it down.
Go on home. Shoo now.
She heads for the bank. The kitten follows. She turns back, frowning.
Shoo.
Interior Bank of California day. Stephanie sits at her desk across from a young Mexican couple. She studies their mortgage application.
We keep getting the same thing. Because I'm not employed by an American company, they won't take my application until they get my solvency statement. And the Mexican Treasury Department says that's going to take at least 4 more weeks.
The house will be gone by then.
It says here you're employed by Pemex?
That's right.
Isn't Pemex a subsidiary of Union Oil?
Yes, so?
Well, so technically, your employer is an American company. I think we can make this work. I'll call you this afternoon and let you know.
The happy couple shakes Stephanie's hand and exit. Ellen, Stephanie's pretty 22-year-old roommate, flops down in the seat across from her.
Ugh. I need clarification on the shoe issue.
Okay.
First of all, you've got the only perfect pair of black dress shoes in LA. So was that a definite, irrevocable no way, or just, I'd rather not at this time, no way?
It's an absolutely, positively, forget about the shoes already, no way. They're my only good pair, and I need them in good shape for tomorrow.
What's up?
Dinner with Ray's parents.
Ellen picks up a desktop photo, a shot of Stephanie and her handsome boyfriend Ray, locked in an embrace, standing in the spray of a waterfall.
Ray's got a nice butt. Really tight.
And Stephanie takes back her photo.
I know. Thanks.
He's a keeper, but I told you about his mom. She is another story. I used to waitress at our country club, and with her, it's all about what private school you went to and who do you know, and you still up for that promotion? Oh, that would help. Stephanie,
Stephanie looks
that's-
longingly to the vacant office of the former assistant manager, the large oak desk, the executive chair waiting to be filled. Stephanie turns back, pushing the thought away.
I'm not putting on a show. She'll either accept me for who I am or not.
Are you reading self-help books again?
The kitten peers out through Stephanie's partially open desk drawer.
Hello there.
Ellen reaches for the kitty, but Stephanie waves her off.
Shh, can't let my boss see him.
Stephanie glances to her manager, Mr. Jacks, a heavy-set man sitting behind a large desk.
So what about the shoes?
I told you. No, now beat it.
Mr. Jacks sneezes and rubs his nose. He looks suspiciously around the bank for the source of his allergy.
Oh, you better bring the kitty home for me.
Sure, if I can take the shoes.
I told you no.
Mr. Jacks sneezes again. His eyes water. He turns to his secretary.
Someone brought a damned animal into my bank?
Mr. Jacks looks around the bank, his twitching nose leading him towards Stephanie's desk.
Okay, fine, take the shoes.
Hidden from Mr. Jacks's view, Ellen quickly scoops up the kitten and places it into her purse. As Mr. Jacks arrives at Stephanie's desk, he overhears.
Don't expect me to take care of it.
This catches Mr. Jack's attention. He turns to the ladies, wondering what they're talking about. Stephanie takes Ellen's hand and vigorously shakes it goodbye.
Of course not. I'll take care of everything, and thanks for choosing Bank of California.
Ellen plays
Okay,
along.
then I'll see you later. I mean, whenever next time I'm in the bank, for a loan.
Goodbye.
As Ellen passes, Mr. Jacks sneezes again, harder.
Oh, someone has definitely brought an animal in here.
He eyes Ellen suspiciously as she exits.
I don't see any cats or any animals.
I hope the hell not.
By the way, I put the paperwork for the McPherson loan on your desk.
Pearson.
The big corporate loan I've been trying to set up. It's just preliminary, but
Oh, right. I'll look it over when I get the chance.
Mr. Jacks, I was wondering if you had made any decision regarding the assistant manager's position yet.
I'm still deciding. Right now, it's between Stu and yourself.
Stu? The trainee?
Stephanie turns to see Stu, the balding loan officer who sits at his desk, watching, trying to figure out what Jacks is saying to her.
I know he's new, but he's also quite aggressive, and we like that. Don't get me wrong, you're well liked here, but we're also looking for someone who's not afraid to crunch the numbers and make the tough decisions.
Mr. Jacks, I feel that I'm perfectly capable.
I'll
of-
let you know as soon as I decide. In the meantime, take him through our loan qualifying procedures, just in case.
Oh, okay,
And would you mind taking your lunch now?
sure.
And on your way back, maybe you could bring me a turkey club.
Stu overhears him as he passes by.
Turkey club. Choice.
Then to Stephanie.
Mind picking one up for me?
No problem.
Jacks heads back towards his desk. Stephanie grabs her purse and keys, and as she heads out, Stu calls after her.
On toasted rye and spicy mustard.
Stephanie doesn't like fetching lunch for the trainee, but hides her displeasure.
Sure.
Exterior UCLA lecture hall day. Ray Dalton, a handsome 29-year-old man, is lecturing before a class of UCLA students. They listen attentively.
Conscious mind abhors uncertainty. It seeks a pattern or reason for everything. We can't find that pattern or reason when we sometimes ascribe its cause to the world of the supernatural. The supernatural world is created by the human mind to conveniently explain everything we can't. So when does a belief in the supernatural cross into the field of abnormal behavior? Where do you, the psychologist, come in? When these beliefs negatively affect our patients' activities of daily living, their jobs, their friends, their sense of well-being.
The class bell rings.
Tomorrow we'll be covering the clinical manifestation of psychosis. You'll find it all referenced in the text.
The students pack up their books. Ray smiles as he sees Stephanie enter the lecture hall, holding a bag of deli food. Interior Ray's university office later. Stephanie eats a salad as she goes over a financial statement of the McPherson Corporation. Ray grades papers.
How are things at the bank? How's that new position looking?
I don't know.
Really? You sounded so sure.
Well, now there's this new guy. They're considering him too.
Ray sees how bummed out she is. He moves close, taking her in his arms.
That job needs somebody with your experience. They know that.
Stephanie nods.
Oh, I've got something for you.
She rummages through her purse and hands Ray an envelope. He removes a coin, an old nickel.
A 1925 Indian head. Hey, good find. Where'd you get it?
One of the tellers found it for me.
Ray puts the coin back into the envelope and tucks it into his pocket.
Thanks.
I better get back to work.
She quickly gathers her things. Ray returns to grading his students' exams. The telephone rings. Ray hits the speakerphone.
Dr. Dalton.
It's the voice of an older woman, Trudy. Hello, dear.
Hi, Mom. Can you hold on a sec?
He turns from the phone, whispering to Stephanie.
I'll call you tonight.
She kisses Ray and exits. Interior hall outside Ray's office day. Stephanie stops at the water fountain for a drink.
Nothing much. Just had lunch with Stephanie and trying to get these midterms graded.
She halts as she hears her name mentioned on Ray's speakerphone. She moves closer to Ray's office to eavesdrop. Stephanie, the one from the farm?
You know who she is? She's coming over for dinner tomorrow night to meet you and Dad.
Ray, I'm sure she's sweet, but she doesn't sound...
What?
I mean, she's just a teller at some bank, right? Raymond, there's a reason that your father and I raised you a certain way. We have expectations.
Oh, please, Mom, not this again.
I heard that Julie Kulik is looking for someone to play tennis with. You know, she graduated Yale Law with honors. I'm told she's quite a successful attorney now. I gave you her number, but her mother says you never called.
Because I'm with Stephanie. I'm not looking for anybody else.
Look, would it kill you to...
Mom, I have to go. See you tomorrow night, okay? Bye.
A disheartened Stephanie quietly exits. Interior Bank of California break room day. As Stephanie pours herself a cup of coffee, Stu and Mr. Jacks take the first bites of their sandwiches. Stu makes a face. He inspects the sandwich and shakes his head.
She messed up my order.
Stephanie heard that.
No, I didn't, Stu.
Steph, I said no mayo.
You never said that.
Stu rolls his eyes to Mr. Jacks. Stephanie caught Stu's look, but what can she do? She exits. Interior Bank of California later. Stephanie sits at her desk, entering data into her computer. She glances across the bank to see Stu and Mr. Jacks emerging from the break room. Stu is about to return to his desk when he remembers something. He's got 2 tickets to a Dodger game that he can't use. Mr. Jacks happily accepts the tickets. Stephanie looks to the vacant office of the assistant manager, and she can feel her promotion slipping away. Scratch. Scratch. Stephanie looks to the source of the sound. A withered hand. An involuntary tremor causes its yellowed fingernails to scratch across the surface of Stephanie's desk. Scratch. Scratch. The hand belongs to Mrs. Sylvia Ganush, an aged woman who sits across from Stephanie. She wears a formal dress and hat from another era. The outfit is threadbare in spots, but great care has been taken to maintain it.
Will you help me?
Of course. What can I do for you?
Mrs. Ganush coughs up phlegm and spits it into a linen handkerchief, which she tucks back into her purse. She hands Stephanie a bunch of crumpled papers, and Stephanie reviews them.
Mrs. Ganush?
The old woman nods.
This is a delinquency notice. It says that the payment on your loan was due a number of months ago, and this other document is a court order for the repossession. The bank is informing you of their intent to repossess your property at 325 Brandon Street tomorrow.
The trucks are there now. The men are packing my things. Private things, please make them stop. This is my home for 20 years, and I make every payment until the sickness took my eye. And
Mrs. Ganush turns her head to reveal a milky white eye. Stephanie hides her revulsion.
Well, do you have the payment with you now?
I hope to get it soon. I just need a little more time.
I don't think my manager is going to extend you any more credit. I'd like to help, but
Please, won't you try?
okay, wait here.
Stephanie stands and moves off. The old woman picks through a bowl of hard candies on Stephanie's desk. Stephanie stands before Mr. Jacks. He acknowledges her without looking up from his work.
What's up?
I've got an elderly woman asking for an extension on her mortgage payment. They're in the process of repossessing her home. She's on a fixed income and she's had some medical problems. I was wondering if we could give her a break.
Stephanie hands Mr. Jacks the loan file. He puts on his bifocals and studies it. Stephanie glances over her shoulder. Stephanie's POV, her desk. Mrs. Ganush looks around to make sure no one's watching, then tips the bowl of hard candies into her purse. She reaches into her mouth and removes a set of stained dentures that she wraps in her linen handkerchief. She places a piece of hard candy into her mouth and gums it with a wet sucking sound. The old woman's one good eye wanders around in ecstasy as she sucks on the sugary treat.
Apparently we've already granted her 2 extensions, and on this type of foreclosure, the bank makes a sizable amount in fees.
He hands her back the file.
It would mean I'd have to throw her out of her house.
Tough decision. Your call.
He leans back in his overstuffed leather chair and studies her. Stephanie glances at the vacant office of the assistant manager, the large oak desk, the thick carpet. She sees a calculating Rubin eyeing her from his workstation.
I'll take care of it.
Stephanie returns to her desk.
Mrs. Ganush, another extension on the loan is out of the question.
What?
I'm sorry.
No, please. It's my home. I'm begging you.
I tried to talk with my boss into it, but he just wouldn't approve.
But where will I live?
Stephanie leafs through the loan documents. She finds a name.
Mrs. Ganush, you've given your granddaughters a reference. It says here she lives nearby. Wouldn't she be better off living with her?
I would not burden her.
Okay, well, there's several fine assisted living facilities for the elderly.
A nursing home? No, I will never go to one of those places.
Well, of course, that's your choice.
It's yours.
Sorry, there's nothing I can do, Mrs. Ganush.
Mrs. Ganush begins to sob.
I'm a proud woman, Mrs. Brown. I never have begged you for anything, but I will beg you now. This is one time. I humble myself before you.
This isn't necessary. Please, let's not make this personal. It's just the bank's policy. I'm really sorry, Mrs. Ganush.
Stephanie takes the loan documents and places them neatly into the manila folder. She glances up, but Mrs. Ganush is gone. Stephanie turns in her chair and is startled to see the old woman kneeling before her. She clutches Stephanie's leg with her gnarled hands.
Have mercy on me.
Stephanie stands, tries to pull free, but the old woman will not release her leg.
Please let me go.
Customers start to look. Mr. Jacks glances up from his desk.
The hell?
I, Sylvia Ganush, beg. On my mother's grave, I beg you.
Please take your hands off of me.
But the old woman only clutches tighter.
I'm calling security.
She picks up the phone and presses a button.
Could you please come over?
Mrs. Ganush finally releases her grip and bows her head in humiliation.
You shame me.
She composes herself, then slowly stands, puffing up her chest, muttering her damaged pride.
Begged you.
Her one good eye fixes its hardened gaze upon Stephanie.
You shamed me.
Mrs. Ganush suddenly grasps Stephanie's arm. Stephanie tries to pull away, but the old lady's grip is strong. Mrs. Ganush reaches out to pluck the charm bracelet from Stephanie's wrist, but the security guard intervenes.
I think your business here is finished, ma'am.
The guard escorts Mrs. Ganush from the bank. Through the bank's windows, Stephanie sees the guard lead Mrs. Ganush to an old Chevy Cavalier on the street. Stephanie composes herself, and when she looks up, the old woman's car is gone. Dissolved 2 interior bank later. The bank is closing. Stephanie is finishing some paperwork when Mr. Jacks stops by her desk.
That was one nutty old lady. You okay?
Stephanie nods.
Handle that just right. And by the way, as far as the assistant manager's position, you're at the top of the list.
Thanks.
Mr. Jax nods and heads for home. Stephanie loads a pile of contracts, a ruler, and a desk stapler into a cardboard box and exits the bank. The security guard locks up behind her. Exterior Bank of California parking structure day. Stephanie waves at the last of her co-workers as they drive off. It's then that she notices the battered Chevy Cavalier. It's parked in the structure. Stephanie looks closer. There's no one behind the wheel. She nervously glances about. No sign of Mrs. Ganush. Stephanie makes her way towards the safety of her car. Her footsteps echo in the deserted structure more loudly than she would like. She arrives at her car and quickly gets inside, locking the doors behind her. She places the box of contracts on the seat next to her. As she starts the engine, she notices a strange sight. Something moving, skimming along the surface of a lot. It's Mrs. Ganush's linen handkerchief. It whisks about like a ghost, swirling closer and closer. Stephanie watches transfixed as it flies right towards her car. It dips beneath her hood and is gone. It suddenly sweeps up into view, flittering up over her windshield, and is carried off by the wind. Stephanie breathes a sigh of relief, just as two wrinkled hands come up around her face. Mrs. Ganush sits up in the back seat of her car, shrieking with rage at Stephanie.
You bitch, I pluck out your fucking eyes!
Mrs. Ganush's razor-sharp fingernails lash out towards Stephanie's eyes, but Stephanie grabs the old woman's wrists, halting her. The withered hands drop down to wrap around Stephanie's throat. Stephanie fights for breath as she frantically searches for a weapon. She finds the box in the seat next to her. She grabs a handful of colored push pins and jams them into the old woman's arms. Mrs. Ganush releases her grip. Stephanie has time for only a single gulp of air before Mrs. Ganush grabs two fistfuls of Stephanie's hair. The old woman yanks upon it. Stephanie's head is pulled back over the edge of the seat. Ganush braces her feet against the back of the front seat to pull even harder. Stephanie's neck is now bent so far back it's about to snap. Stephanie's hand finds the stapler, trips the release. It springs open. She swings it back over her shoulder. Ka-thunk, ka-thunk, ka-thunk. With each blow, she delivers a staple into Mrs. Ganush's forehead. Ka-thunk. A lucky shot. The old woman's white eye is stapled shut. The old woman howls, but her grip on Stephanie's hair only tightens. Stephanie, about to black out, throws the car into gear and hits the gas. As the car accelerates, Stephanie fastens her shoulder harness with the last of her strength. The old woman's stapled eyelid pops open just in time for her to see an oncoming concrete column. Stephanie's car slams into it. Stephanie is held fast by her shoulder harness, but Mrs. Ganush's body hurtles forward over into the front seat, impacting against the dashboard with tremendous force. A close shot on the woman's head slamming into the dash. In a spray of broken teeth, her dentures eject from her mouth. Both women are dazed from the impact. Stephanie regains her wits first. She reaches across Mrs. Ganush and opens the passenger door. Mrs. Ganush stirs, but before she can come to, Stephanie's foot shoves her out. The old woman hits the ground hard, but she sits up suddenly with a snarl and starts to climb back in. Stephanie shifts the car into reverse. The open passenger door knocks Mrs. Ganush back onto the pavement. The door's rear bumper slams into a concrete column, and Stephanie is dazed. Mrs. Ganush crawls to her feet and begins limping towards the car. Stephanie tries to focus. A blurred image in the rearview mirror, Mrs. Ganush running closer, shrieking with old-world rage. The old woman reaches for the opened passenger door, but Stephanie closes it and locks it just in time. Mrs. Ganush furiously pulls on the door's handle to no avail.
Beat you, you old bitch! Next time, take your Geritol!
The old woman bends down beneath Stephanie's view. Stephanie looks around. Where'd she go? The old woman pops up into view, raising a chunk of concrete, and crash! Stephanie screams as the window shatters. The old woman's head adjusts into the car, and she clamps her toothless maw down upon Stephanie's chin, suckling it, gumming. The old woman's good eye rolls around in ecstasy. Stephanie shrieks as she pushes the slobbering head away. Strands of spittle form a bridge from from the old woman's mouth to Stephanie's jaw. The old woman's wrinkled hand gropes around the front seat. She finds her dentures, now damaged from the fight. She grunts as she jams them back into her mouth. She comes at Stephanie, mouth wide open and shrieking. Stephanie grabs the wooden ruler from her cardboard box and shoves it down the old lady's throat. Mrs. Ganush gags, trying to retch up the ruler. Then, Stephanie is suddenly screaming herself as the old woman has grabbed her legs and is dragging her from the car. Stephanie hits the pavement. She shields her face with her hands, waiting, but the blow never comes. The old woman stands above her, wheezing.
You shamed me.
The old woman reaches down and Stephanie flinches. Mrs. Ganush's gnarled hand plucks a thin brass button from the sleeve of Stephanie's coat. She waves the button throughout the air and breathes out a single word.
Me.
Clouds move past the setting sun. A shadow falls over Stephanie. A cold wind makes her shiver.
What are you doing?
Stephanie sits up, reaching for her button, but the old woman moves it out of reach.
You want it?
Stephanie snatches the button back. Mrs. Ganush smiles cryptically as Stephanie stuffs the button into her coat pocket.
Soon it will be you who comes begging to me. It begins tonight when I hear you cry.
What cry?
The Lamia. It's coming for you.
A large black buzzing fly lands on Stephanie's face. She swats it away. Her vision blurs and she grows dizzy. She leans against the car for support. Then she finally looks up. Mrs. Ganush is gone. Interior Police Station, Sergeant's Desk, night. Stephanie and Ray have just finished filing a report with Officer Naimark.
What about a restraining order? Well, that's usually only something we do if there's a pattern of harassment. But like I said, we'll file a report and keep it on record in case you have a continuing problem. But once we send an officer around to have a word with her, I don't think she'll be bothering you again.
Thank you. It's been very helpful.
Exterior Ventura Boulevard later that night. Stephanie and Ray eat ice cream cones as they walk past the shops.
I just thank God you're okay. You're okay, right?
I'm fine.
Ray waits, sensing that there's more to it.
You're fine, but you're...
I could have gotten her another extension, but I didn't.
You said the bank had already granted her 2 extensions. When you don't pay your mortgage, you lose your house. What did she expect?
I guess.
A breeze. She shivers. He wraps his arm around her protectively, and after a moment, they walk on. Stephanie watches wistfully as a young couple coo over their baby. Behind the couple, Stephanie notices a neon sign on a storefront window. It reads, Psychic.
Let's go get our fortune read.
You're kidding, right?
She cajoles a protesting Ray through the front door of the establishment. Interior storefront night. A tiny waiting room. A poster on the wall indicating the energy meridians of the human body.
I just hope to God none of my students see me here. $5 says he's wearing a turban.
A beaded curtain parts, revealing Rham, a small, dark-skinned 50-year-old Indian man. He wears a plain black suit and a white turban. His inquisitive eyes evaluate the couple.
I am Ramjas, seer.
How do you do? I'm Stephanie Brown, and this is Ray.
But you probably already knew that. Just kidding.
Rham gives Ray a tight smile.
How can I help you?
We'd like to have our fortunes read. Can you do that? Read the future?
I have the ability to see certain energies. Sometimes these energies are a foretoken of things to come. Sometimes not. $60, please.
$60. Isn't that a little steep for this kind of thing?
Go. There are many who would claim to be seers, but they are not. Although you would pay them little, you would receive nothing. If you are not serious, go.
Rham turns to depart through the beaded curtain.
Wait.
She removes some bills from her purse, but Ray waves her off, handing Rham his credit card.
Platinum card. Very good.
He swipes Ray's card through the credit card machine. Interior, Rham back room night. A sparsely furnished, dimly lit room. The walls are lined with old books. Rham stands before Stephanie and Ray, who sit at a card table. Stephanie giggles with excitement.
Sorry.
Rham smiles back.
That's quite all right. So you wish to know something of your destiny. Very good. We shall see what the fates have in store.
Rham crosses to the window and closes the curtains.
Freud said destiny was not an act of fate, but rather something created by our subconscious to control our conscious choices.
That is true, but we should not pretend to understand the world only by intellect.
Carl Jung.
Yes, from his treatise, Psychological Types.
Ray studies this strange man as he strikes a match and lights a candle. There's more to him than meets the eye, but Ray brushes it off.
Jung, the new Agers, favorite psychologist.
Because he wasn't afraid to bring God into the equation.
Ramjas takes a seat at the table across from Stephanie.
Your hand, please.
Stephanie extends her hand to Ramjas. He closes his eyes and concentrates. Stephanie smiles excitedly to Ray, who raises a skeptical eyebrow.
Work with money,
That's right.
but you've lost something.
No, I don't think so.
No, you're right. Something's been taken from you.
No,
Ramjas grabs her arm and turns it, revealing the threads that once held the button on her coat sleeve.
Button.
well, yes, some old woman.
Well, anyone can see she lost a button, so what?
Right, it was very strange. At the bank today, the old woman, the one I told you about, she plucked the button right from my sleeve.
Why would she do that?
You would please both be quiet.
Ramjas concentrates. His eyelids flutter. Stephanie appears uneasy. The flame of the candle begins to flicker as the breeze sweeps through the room. The wind chimes tinkle. Ray holds his collar closed against the sudden chill in the air. Ramjas's back stiffens. He releases Stephanie's hand and stands. He moves away from the table, uncomfortable. With a handkerchief, he dabs perspiration from his brow.
I think that's enough for now.
Wait, you saw something. What?
I'm sorry. I'm tired and I see it's become quite late. Of course, I will refund your money.
Tell me, please, Ramjas.
Ramjas hesitates. Then,
Bad spirit has come upon you.
How?
Did you blaspheme the dead while visiting a gravesite?
No?
Do you play with Ouija boards or confer with those who practice the black arts?
What is this?
No, I didn't.
Perhaps someone has cursed you.
Who?
Ramjas turns her wrist, exposing the loose threads on her coat sleeve. Close on the threads where the brass button once was. Exterior, the hills of Silver Lake night. Ray and Stephanie cruise along the dark, winding hills. Ray looks over at Stephanie.
How did he know all that?
No, what? That you lost a button?
Still you, Ray.
Oh. Oh, he makes some good guesses, stirs you up, leaving you with a lot of questions, and conveniently, his business card. Come on, he's a scam artist.
He didn't want the money. He tried to get the money back.
In the end, he took it, didn't he?
I guess so.
Exterior, Stephanie's house night. Ray and Stephanie step from the car. They open a rusting iron gate and walk up the hilly path to Stephanie's slightly funky Silver Lake rental house. Interior, Stephanie's house foyer night. Ray and Stephanie step inside. The kitten purrs around Stephanie's feet, and Ray picks it up.
So this is him. Got a name?
Just Kitty so far.
She takes the cat from Ray and cuddles it.
Sure, you don't want me to spend the night?
Don't tempt me. I've got to prep for a presentation for the morning.
Okay.
Ray kisses her, opens the front door, and exits. He calls back to her from the car.
Remember, dinner at my folks' house tomorrow night. We're supposed to bring dessert. I could pick something up.
No, I'm planning on baking my special cake.
Sounds good. Try not to stay up too late.
Ray waves and steps into his car. Stephanie watches him drive off. Interior, Stephanie's house, kitchen, night. Stephanie sits at the kitchen table in her flannel pajamas, entering financial data into her laptop. An episode of Desperate Housewives plays in the background on TV. A baking timer chimes. Stephanie removes a beautifully browned cake from the oven and sets it on the counter to cool. Her roommate, Ellen, comes down the stairs, snuggling the kitten.
Oh, isn't he adorable?
Let's hope the landlord thinks so.
She sets down the kitten and picks up her overnight bag.
What about you? You going to be okay? I don't have.
No, I'm fine. Have a good time.
I look great. Be honest.
You look great.
Ellen smiles, grabs her car keys, and heads for the door.
But isn't that Marcy's dress?
Yeah. And if she calls, tell her not to go bipolar on me, or I'll get it back to her by tomorrow, or the next day. Bye.
Ellen exits. Stephanie places butter into a mixer for the cake frosting. Through the kitchen window, we can see Ellen walking down the path towards the street. She steps through the iron gate, latching it closed behind her. Exterior Stephanie's house, night. Ellen's car pulls away. The wind kicks up, whisking leaves about as though something were moving up the path and towards the front gate of the house. Interior Stephanie's house, kitchen, night. An unsettling shriek. The hell was that? Stephanie sets down the measuring cup. She moves to the front door, locks it. She looks out the kitchen window. The iron gate is now open. It shrieks as it swings back and forth in the wind. Suddenly, the latch gives way and the window swings open. Wind sweeps through the kitchen, whipping dead leaves about. The hanging pans bang together, clang, clang. Stephanie forces the window closed, and the wind dies. The room grows eerily quiet. A car passes on the street below. Its headlights sweep across the house. The headlight beams throw moving shadows onto the wall. Stephanie notices one particular shadow is darker than the others. It becomes the silhouette of Mrs. Ganush, but there's no one in the room with her. The car passes and the shadow vanishes. Sensing something, the kitten arches its back. Now Stephanie feels it. A presence. The light bulb begins to sputter. She holds her breath and listens. The floorboards creak. Something is walking towards her. She spins around, but there's nothing there. The sound of footsteps drawing closer. She backs against the wall, trembling. Suddenly, Stephanie's face is struck by an invisible hand. She cries out. Her mouth is bleeding. She runs for the door. She's almost there. Her hand reaches for the knob when something unseen picks her up. She screams as she is thrown against the wall. She falls to the floor. Lifting her head, she catches her own reflection in the window. In the reflection, as the light bulb flickers, we see a flash of ghostly hands that grope her body. They reach up through the floor and clutch at her legs, buttocks, and breasts.
Get off me, get off!
The phantom hands vanish. Stephanie looks around, eyes wild. Interior Ray's house, night. Stephanie is wearing Ray's overcoat atop her pajamas. She nervously paces the room. Ray hurries in, handing her a pack of frozen peas that she presses against her bloody lip.
So, she came to your house? This is crazy. I'm calling that police officer.
He begins to dial, but Stephanie stops him.
Ray, you're not listening. It wasn't her. It was something that she sicked on me.
I don't understand.
I didn't tell you the whole story. That old woman, after she knocked me down and pulled the button for my coat, she told me that
What?
she said that something was coming for me, and it did.
Ray stares at her with concern. Interior Ray's house later. Dr. Rangavertz, wearing jeans and a UCLA basketball sweatshirt, concludes his interview with Stephanie. He carries a small black medical bag as he steps from the living room to speak to Ray.
Ray, you were right to call me. Never a good idea to be personally involved with your patient. What do you think? Well, medically, she's fine. She's just very distraught. She's displaying some paranoia and a sense of panic, classic symptoms of a post-traumatic stress disorder, probably a result of being assaulted by that old woman.
Dr. Rangavertz scribbles out a prescription and hands it to Ray.
How worried should I be? We'll have to wait and see.
Interior Ray's bedroom, night. Stephanie lays peacefully in the bed, almost asleep. A bottle of sedatives on the bedside table. Ray pulls up the blankets around her exposed shoulder. Stephanie sighs and turns to him.
How you doing?
Better now. At the time, it just seemed so real. God, I'm so embarrassed.
Don't be. You had a terrible day and you get a little wigged out. It happens.
No, now what, Doc?
I was gonna surprise you, but what the hell? I've been planning a little trip for us this weekend, and Saturday morning we're taking a train to Santa Barbara.
Really?
My family owns a cabin up there in the hills overlooking this little river. We'll light a fire, drink some champagne, and screw our brains out.
You sure do know how to talk to a girl.
It's a chance to just be together, undisturbed. There's a lot of stuff I want to talk to you about, but it never seems to be the right time.
Sounds nice.
She draws in a deep breath, and for the first time that evening, she looks at peace. Ray watches her as she closes her eyes and drifts off to sleep. Fade to black. Interior Ray's bedroom morning. Tweeting birds and filtered sunlight streams in through the window, awakening Stephanie. She stretches and looks to the empty pillow next to her. Ray is gone. She tries to fall back asleep, but the sound of a dripping faucet keeps her awake. Frustrated, she gets out of bed and steps into the bathroom. Withered hands clamp around Stephanie's throat, violently shaking her.
You shamed me!
Match cut to Ray shaking her.
Steph, wake up!
She awakens in her bed, screaming.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
It was just a dream. It's okay.
She gets control. Ray smooths out the tangled hair from her sweaty face. He looks deeply into her eyes, afraid of what's happening to her. The phone in the next room rings. Ray looks over and decides to ignore it. It keeps ringing.
Go ahead.
I'll be right back.
He steps into the next room and we hear him answer the phone. Stephanie sighs and lays back down, next to Mrs. Ganush. The old woman is covered in a swarm of black flies. Stephanie shrieks. The old woman opens her maw, exposing sharp, broken teeth, and she lunges for Stephanie. Stephanie grabs the old woman by the hair, halting the chomping teeth inches from her face. She tries to push Mrs. Ganush away, but the old woman's yellowed teeth snap and press ever closer. The muscles in Stephanie's arms are trembling. She's weakening. Mrs. Ganush closes in, about to clamp her teeth down upon Stephanie's face when Stephanie suddenly awakens with a gasp. It was all a dream within a dream. She bolts up out of bed, takes her bearings. She's alone in Ray's bedroom. She checks the bathroom, under the bed. All normal. Ray enters.
You okay?
No. Oh my god, I had some dreams. Awful.
Want to tell me about them?
The old lady, she was here. I couldn't wake up.
Stephanie shakes her head. She can't finish. Ray pulls back the drapes. Sunlight pours into the room. Stephanie tries to put the dream out of her mind, and Ray sits next to her and strokes her hair.
Dr. Rangavertz said you could stop by his office during your lunch hour.
Stephanie nods. Exterior Bank of California morning. Ray's car stops in front of the bank. Interior Ray's car. Stephanie looks across the street to the parking structure. Her car is there. The window has been replaced.
I had them replace the window last night. Still need some body work.
Thank you, Ray.
She closes her eyes and takes a deep breath.
We've got to be prepared that it might take some time for you to get over this.
She nods. Interior Bank of California day. Stephanie enters the bank. She guiltily glances at the clock. It's 9:40. She's late. She tries to be discreet as she moves to her desk, hoping Mr. Jacks won't notice. She's almost there when Stu accidentally knocks a notebook off of his desk. Mr. Jacks glances up and notices Stephanie's tardiness. Stu approaches Stephanie's desk.
Hi, Steph. Just getting here?
What are you, the hall monitor?
Haha, you're funny, Steph.
What do you want?
I need you to finish teaching me the loan procedures.
I've got a lot on my mind. Let's do it tomorrow.
Sure, I'll just tell Mr. Jacks that you don't have the time right now. Maybe he can show me.
She glances up. Mr. Jacks is still watching her.
No, it's all right. I'll do it. Where were we?
We were going over the asset-based lending guidelines.
Right. Okay. Let's say your client is a company that can't get traditional bank financing but needs a secured loan.
Scratch. Scratch. Stephanie looks around for the source of the sound but can't find it.
Yeah?
We offer several types of asset-based lending, which consist of revolving lines of credit and term loans secured by accounts receivables. Their inventory, machinery.
Scratch. Scratch. Stephanie sees that Stu's hand has been replaced by Mrs. Ganush's. Its yellowed fingernails scratch across her desk. She looks again, and Stu's hand is returned to normal.
And
get your filthy pig knuckles off my desk!
Stu is taken aback by Stephanie's outburst. He retreats to his desk in confusion. Stephanie sits, rattled. A drop of blood falls onto a piece of paper on her desk. The blood is trickling from her nose. Stephanie grabs a tissue to halt the bleeding. She looks down to see a large black fly land upon the drop of blood. She gasps and stands, her mind racing. She knows what she must do. She finds Mrs. Ganush's loan documents. She stuffs them into a folder, grabs her purse, and bolts for the exit. Mr. Jacks, engaged with a customer, calls after her.
Stephanie, where are you going?
She moves quickly out the door, pretending not to hear him. Stu watches Stephanie go and gets up from his desk. He left some files behind. He snoops around the desk, notices a folder marked confidential. It's the McPherson loan file. Interesting. He picks it up. Exterior Mrs. Ganush's house, day. An old wood bungalow that has seen better days, a moving truck in the driveway. Stephanie's car pulls up. She steps out carrying Mrs. Ganush's loan documents. She passes the moving men, who load the last of Mrs. Ganush's things. She arrives at the open front door, gathers her courage, and knocks. No answer. She calls out.
Mrs. Ganush?
No answer. She steps inside. Interior Mrs. Ganush's foyer, day. It's dark and musty here. The place is barren but for some flattened cardboard boxes. Stephanie tries the light switch. No power.
Mrs. Ganush?
She moves towards the living room. Interior Mrs. Ganush's living room, day. It's too dark to see much of anything. Stephanie fumbles over something left on the floor. A voice.
I knew you'd come.
Stephanie almost jumps out of her skin. As her eyes adjust, she sees Mrs. Ganush sitting on a crate in the corner of the room, her arthritic hands clutching a yellowed photograph.
Hi, I'm here because I think I can help you. I can get your house back for you.
It's so empty now.
I can arrange for all of your furniture to be brought back. Would that be okay?
Mrs. Ganush does not look up from the photograph.
So, on behalf of the bank, I just want to resolve this and to your satisfaction. The whole thing just got personal and there was really no reason for that. The bank made a mistake and I can fix it for you. And in return, I'd like you to cancel or call off whatever the thing you did to me, okay? No hard feelings. So, my mother was a proud woman. Dignity, that's what she had.
Stephanie nods, waits an appropriate moment, then places the document gently down on the floor next to Mrs. Ganush.
All you need to do is sign here.
Stephanie offers her a pen.
And I'll take care of the rest.
Mrs. Ganush's hard eyes find Stephanie's. They bore in.
No.
No, but I'm saying I'll make things right. Just sign this and you can keep the house. Isn't that what you wanted?
This is what I wanted before you shamed me. Now, I want to see you suffer.
Please, I've suffered enough.
Not yet.
Mrs. Ganush suddenly erupts in a broken-toothed cackle.
You're insane. Just a crazy old woman. I don't even know why I came here.
You know why.
Terrified, Stephanie runs from the place. Exterior Mrs. Ganush's house, day. The old woman's cackling can still be heard as Stephanie hurries to her car and drives off. Exterior 7-Eleven parking lot, later. Stephanie sits in her parked car. Interior Stephanie's car. Stephanie is eating from a package of double-stuffed Oreos, joylessly jamming one after another into her mouth. Her eyes dart about. Who could help her? Then she remembers something. She sets down the cookies and rummages through her purse. She finds the business card of Rham. She starts the car and drives off. Exterior intersection, day. Stephanie halts at a red light. Out of the corner of her eye, she sees something odd. Stephanie's POV on the street. Rubin walking with two well-dressed executives.
Stu?
The men warmly escort him into the First National Bank.
What's he doing at First National? The car behind... Oh.
The car behind her honks, and she drives on. Exterior Rham storefront, day. Stephanie's car is parked on the street. Interior storefront, day. Stephanie stands before a counter facing Rham. He swipes her credit card through the machine. She signs the receipt. He motions for her to follow her through the beaded curtain. Interior backroom of Rham storefront, day. On a plain wooden table, a samovar brews a musty tea. Ramjas is reading from an ancient text. He looked up from the book, solemn.
What did it sound like?
Like shrieking. It was awful.
That would
He
be the
nods,
Lamia.
closes the book.
Lamia, the black goat,
Lamia, right. That's the word the old woman used.
is a nasty spirit, a taker of souls, a creature of misfortune for you and those around you. It is often summoned by the gypsies for their dour deeds. On the third day, the Lamia comes for the owner of the accursed object.
Cursed object? What object?
Something that the old woman took from you, cursed, then gave back.
Now it dawns on Stephanie. She looks to the threads on her coat.
The button.
Stephanie's hand slowly emerges from her coat pocket, the thin brass button in her palm.
This.
She holds the button up for him to inspect, but its presence makes him uneasy. He wags his finger back and forth, and she lowers it.
What if I just burn the thing?
No matter what condition the button is in, you would still be the owner. The Lamia would still come to take you.
Take me where?
Ramjas gives her a sad smile and closes the text. She knows where. Stymied, she tucks the button back into her coat pocket.
There's got to be something I can do.
Yes, there are many ways to appease a spirit. The simplest is a blood offering, an animal sacrifice. A small creature would do. You could sacrifice a chicken. It's all in here.
Ramjas produces a modern book on animal sacrifice, which he sets before her.
No way. I'm a vegetarian. I am a member of PETA, for Christ's sake. I don't go around killing animals.
You will be surprised what you will be willing to do when the Lamia comes for you.
She considers his words, looks down at the book. Close on a diagram of an animal sacrifice, a creature's heart being cut from its body. Camera pulls back to reveal that Stephanie now sits at her kitchen table reading the book. We see other diagrams, the heart being placed into a skillet over an open fire, the burial of the smoking heart. Stephanie's kitten purrs as it rubs against her leg. Stephanie closes the book, shutting out the disturbing images. She hears the shriek of the rusty gate outside. She moves to the window and peers out. The rusting iron gate is open. Stephanie senses a change in the room. Shadows shift and grow deeper. The air is suddenly oppressive. Something is coming. She moves to the front door and puts her ear to it. Quiet. But then, scratch. Scratch. She runs upstairs into her bedroom and locks the door. Interior Stephanie's bedroom. She can hear the sound of the scratching, even here. She rushes to the phone and picks it up. No dial tone, only high-pitched static, the sounds of the Lamia buried within. She sets the phone down. For a moment, all is quiet. Should she go back down? She hears a tiny squeaking, the knob on the front door turning. Then the click of a lock, followed by the creaking of rusty hinges as the front door swings open. She calls through the bedroom door.
Ellen?
But it's not Ellen. Stephanie puts her ear to the door, the sound of an animal's hooves on wood. Something is climbing the stairs. It stops outside of the bedroom door. Stephanie holds her breath, listening. She sees a shadow beneath the crack in the door.
I know that you're there.
The window behind her explodes into the room with a deafening roar. That she ducks for cover. Another window is blown inward and the glass is sent her way. She screams and runs towards the bathroom door. It slams shut in her face. Boom. Another window is shattered by the angry, unseen thing. The force knocks her to her bed. The blankets are torn from the mattress, throwing Stephanie to the floor. The bed sheets whisk around the room, flapping and twisting around like drunken ghosts. She tries to run, but they tangle around her legs and yank her into the air, suspending her upside down, taking her on a wild and harrowing ride around the room. Abruptly, all the madness stops. She drops to the floor. The bed sheets wafts to the ground beside her. Whatever it is, it's gone. It's quiet now. A terrified Stephanie sits, shaking in the wreckage of her room. Interior Stephanie's kitchen later. With a trembling hand, she jams a Zagnut bar into her mouth and drops the wrapper onto a pile of others on the floor. She chases it with a double shot of Maker's Mark whiskey. She removes a knife from the butcher's block and hefts its weight. She sings out in a sweet but trembling voice.
Here, kitty, kitty. Here, kitty, kitty, kitty.
She moves closer until her face fills the screen. Exterior Stephanie's room day. The distant scream of the kitten is heard. We hear it again and again until it's finally silenced.
Interior bathroom day. Stephanie, having been sick, emerges from the bathroom wiping her mouth. Interior Stephanie's kitchen day. Stephanie throws something small and bloody inside the microwave oven and turns it on. Stephanie's backyard garden afternoon. She buries the heart in the corner of her garden. She turns on the garden hose, washing the cat's blood from the knife.
Steph?
Stephanie quickly tosses the knife into the bushes. Ellen appears.
Didn't you hear me calling? I was looking for you all over. Are you power eating Clark bars again? Because there's about 10,000 wrappers all over that. Oh my God, is that blood?
Stephanie glances guiltily in the corner of the garden, but no blood shows.
No, why would there be blood?
Right there on your sleeve.
Stephanie glances at the red spot on her sleeve.
It's just tomato juice. I was inside making a salad and I cut a tomato and it must have gotten on my sleeve.
Ellen gives her roommate a worried look.
Look, Steph, we're friends. So if something's wrong,
I had some problems, a situation, but I took care of everything and it's good now.
Ellen isn't so sure. Interior Stephanie's bedroom day. Stephanie closes her bedroom door so Ellen can't see the damage. Stephanie cleans up the place. As she picks up some of her things, she comes across an old photograph. Closer, it's a photo of 16-year-old Stephanie. She was obese. Her belly unflatteringly protrudes from beneath a t-shirt. She stands before some barnyard animals, a bucket of feed at her feet. Stephanie looks distastefully down at her former self. She tears up the photo and dumps it into the wastebasket. Interior kitchen afternoon. The music grows lighter as Stephanie models a couple of dresses in front of Ellen, who's helping her decide on the evening's wardrobe.
go with the short skirt.
What about this one?
She holds up a longer, more formal dress.
That one's saying, I'm trying to impress you with my conservative taste.
But that's what I wanted to say.
Ellen shakes her head. No. Stephanie takes a last look in the mirror, decides to go with the short skirt.
Okay, this is it.
Right. Tell me again the exact words he used.
Just that this little cabin would be a great place for us to really connect, and there was something he'd been meaning to talk to me about.
Oh my God, you are so engaged.
Ellen's smile fades. She shakes her head despondently.
What's wrong?
I just know that Rob's never going to ask me.
But I thought you said your relationship was only physical.
Oh, I'd never marry a guy like that, but still like him to ask me.
Huh.
Exterior Nicholas Canyon, dusk. Stephanie's car pulling up in front of Ray's hillside house. The convertible top is down, and Stephanie looks radiant in the golden sunlight.
Let's get a look at that dress.
She steps from the car and models the dress.
You like?
I like.
Interior Stephanie's car, dusk. Ray and Stephanie drive through the streets of Bel Air, Stephanie at the wheel. She tunes into a rock station and turns it up loud. She smiles at Ray and takes his hand. She hits the gas and her Ford Focus opens up, accelerating down a long tree-lined street, the wind blowing through their hair. Exterior Dalton House, dusk. Stephanie and Ray approach the front door. Stephanie carries her homemade cake. They ring the bell. Stephanie suddenly seems apprehensive.
Something wrong?
It's just that I'm not some Ivy Leaguer with an impressive resume. I have a feeling that's what your folks really want.
Maybe, but in the end, it's about what you and I want.
Is that so?
Ray gives her a reassuring nod. The front door opens, revealing Ray's parents, George and Trudy Dalton. Behind them, we glimpse an exquisitely furnished foyer. Raymond! Kisses her son.
Stephanie, this is my mother, Trudy, and my father, George.
Trudy glances at Stephanie's revealing cocktail dress with thinly veiled disapproval. Stephanie self-consciously tugs it lower. How do you do?
It's nice to meet you, Stephanie.
It's very nice to meet you too.
Please come in.
Thank you.
She steps inside. Interior Dalton's house.
You have a lovely home.
Thanks. I'll get us something to drink.
As George exits, Stephanie presents her homemade cake to Trudy.
I hope you don't mind. I baked something for you.
Trudy hesitates, then takes the cake from Stephanie. It's lovely. Homemade?
It's a harvest cake.
Harvest cake. Is that some kind of cake you make on a farm?
We used to, yeah. When you have a lot of extra duck eggs, especially right before spring, that's when you get a real dense yolk. Makes for a rich cake.
You must give me the recipe sometime.
Sure, it's easy. The real secret's in the milk. You want it unpasteurized.
Uncleaned? I mean, unpasteurized? Is that safe?
Uh-huh. And you want the milk still warm, straight from the cow.
Trudy has to stifle her gag reflex. George returns and hands Ray and Stephanie a cocktail. Excuse me while I find some place to put this. As Trudy takes away the cake, a cat rounds the corner. It hisses at Stephanie. She takes a step back.
Never could understand that damned animal. I hate cats.
Trudy returns from the kitchen. That's strange. Hecuba's usually very sweet.
That's okay. I had a cat. I understand.
What do you mean, had a cat? What happened to him?
How would I know what happened? Probably nothing. You know how cats are. They come and go.
Ray nods slowly, about to say something, but lets it go. Interior Dalton House dining room later. Stephanie, Ray, George, and Trudy are finishing dinner.
Still keeping up with your coin collection, Ray?
I try to. In fact, Stephanie just found me a 1925 Indian head nickel at her bank.
Really? So how long have you been working there, Stephanie?
Almost 2 years now.
The job of a bank teller must be so difficult. I think with all the counting and the repetition, it'll become tedious.
Yes, you're right. But I'm not a teller.
Oh,
Stephanie is a loan officer in charge of small business and home loans. And she's on a fast track for promotion. Huh? Right, Steph?
I'd like to think so. Actually, it depends. If I could close this big account I'm working on, it would really help.
Must be a very important loan.
It would be the biggest that my branch ever handled.
How'd it come to you?
Well, I was reading the Wall Street Journal and found this innovative medical supply company that was interested in expanding but didn't want liquidity. I met with their CFO and presented a formula for restructuring some of their long-term debt. It created an environment where I was able to offer them a rather attractive loan package.
You sure sound like you've got a lot going for you, Stephanie.
your mother must be very proud.
I suppose. I don't see her much.
Why is that?
Well, ever since my dad died, she doesn't talk much. She mostly stays on the farm and keeps to herself. Because,
Does your mother have a drinking problem?
Hey, cut her some slack, Mom. She...
yes,
Eh.
I'm afraid she does.
I'm sorry. Nothing to be ashamed of. And I find your honesty refreshing.
Thank you.
You've got backbone. Not like that other girl Ray brought by. What was her name? Alicia? Oh, she was dreadful. So ill-mannered and no ambition.
Mom!
Found her through the internet.
Mom, please.
Stephanie, am I being too tough on Ray? Stephanie, happy to be taken into the family circle, winks at Ray.
No, not at all. That's what moms are for.
Thank you, Stephanie. Maybe I will try that harvest cake of yours after all. Trudy cuts herself a piece. Stephanie tastes the cake and emits a tiny cough.
Oh, excuse me.
She clears her throat, but the cough returns and grows larger.
Just a just a little tickle in my.
She stands and takes a few steps away from the table. Ray looks concerned.
Are you okay?
She waves him off, clearing her throat. Tries to smile demurely, but erupts with a harsh cough. She's choking on something and is trying to bring it up from deep within her throat. With all her might, she emits a bark, and a large black fly buzzes out of her mouth. Oh! Oh my god! Easily buzzes across the table, slowly circling Trudy's head. Trudy spits out a mouthful of harvest cake into her napkin. George lowers his fork and pushes away his plate of unclean farm cake. Ray is baffled, too stunned to speak. Stephanie's gaze shifts to the kitchen door. From the other side, she hears the sound of hoofs. Ray tries to cover for Stephanie.
I'm so sorry, Stephanie. I don't know that fly got into your.
Wait, what's that sound?
What sound?
Shh! Listen.
Trudy listens along with the others. They can't hear anything, but Stephanie hears the footsteps drawing closer. I'm sorry, I can't hear anything.
Must be tougher than a post.
But Trudy heard that and takes offense. But before she can say anything, a shadow appears at the base of the door. Stephanie stands and shouts at it.
Leave me alone! Just leave me the fuck alone!
Stephanie grabs her dinner plate and hurls it just past Trudy's head. It shatters against the base of the door, spraying everyone with bits of broken china and fish. The shadow and footsteps are gone. Ray rushes to her side.
Steph, it's okay. There's nothing there.
She looks about. George and Trudy regard Stephanie as if she were mad.
I think I better go.
I think that's best, dear. She heads to the door. Ray starts to go after her, but his mother stops him. Let her go, Ray. She's a sick girl.
She needs me.
I'm telling you not to go after her. Ray gently pulls free of his mother's grasp and chases after Stephanie. Exterior Dalton House moments later. Ray rushes outside, stopping Stephanie as she's about to get into her car.
What did you see in there?
You don't want to know.
Ray pulls her close.
Tell me.
The thing that's coming for me, what the old woman sent.
Listen to me. What you're going through right now, it's like the doctor said, it's a stress reaction. And
No, I wanted to believe that, but it's real, right? You just don't want to open your eyes to it because it threatens you. Because if I'm right and there is something out there, then you'd have to throw out everything you teach. And where'd that leave you? Like a plow without a mule.
Ray just stares at her. A long moment passes as he wonders if maybe she isn't right.
Unless you're willing to take a chance and believe in me, I can't be with you anymore.
She steps into the car and drives off. Ray watches her tail lights as they vanish into the night. Exterior Echo Park House later that night. An older home with bars on the front windows. Stephanie knocks at the front door. She turns toward the distant sound, a chilling, high-pitched squeal. Was it just a bus's air brakes? Or something more? When Stephanie turns back, the door has been opened a crack, and an eye peers out at her.
What is it?
Hi. Yes, I came to see Sylvia Ganush. Is she here?
Door opens wider, revealing a sexy 24-year-old gypsy girl, Ilenka Ganush. A bottle of beer in her hand, long black hair, earrings, and a snake tattoo on her neck. She wears a low-cut shirt and tight shorts. Eastern European hip-hop and laughter are heard within the house.
I'm Ilenka, Sylvia's granddaughter. Who are you?
Stephanie Brown. I'm sort of a friend of hers. Actually, I've been trying to help her with the loan.
Wait, I know who you are. Grandma told me you'd come. You're the woman from the bank, the one who took our house.
It was really the bank that took the house. I just worked there. In fact, I tried to help your grandma get the house back, but my boss wouldn't let me.
Ilenka knows she's lying. Stephanie knows that she knows.
That's not what happened, is it? You're going to stand here on my porch and lie through my face?
No.
You used to be a real fat girl too, didn't you?
Yes.
I can tell. You know, you caused my grandma a lot of pain. That house was her pride. When you took that from her, she had nothing left. You're not welcome.
She starts to close the door. Stephanie halts her, desperate now, nowhere else to turn.
Okay, I did it. It was me who denied her the loan. I was trying to get ahead at work, and I shouldn't have done it. It was wrong.
Damn straight it was wrong.
And I'm ashamed about it, and I'm going to get down on my hands and knees and beg her to forgive me. She said that I hadn't suffered enough, but now I think she'll see that I have, and then maybe she'll just let me go.
Make everything all right for her, is that it?
Yes.
Ilenka gives a bitter, cryptic smile. She motions for Stephanie to follow. They enter a room filled with young gypsies drinking, smoking, and talking loudly in a Slavic tongue. A woman with a cane shouts as she throws a pair of dice. A Hungarian man with a large braided ponytail curses his bad luck as he pays cash to the woman.
Where is she?
Ilenka gestures to an area beyond the partygoers. Stephanie pushes her way through the crowd. She stumbles and falls atop the corpse of Mrs. Ganush. As per the custom of the gypsy wake, there is no coffin, just her dead body that rests atop a coffee table. Stephanie has landed atop the corpse. The leg of the coffee table breaks under the weight of the two women. Stephanie tumbles to the ground, the corpse landing atop her. The crowd of mourners gasp. The dead woman's open mouth bobs up and down upon Stephanie's chin, as though it were once again suckling it. Stephanie shoves the corpse off of her and backs away in revulsion.
Still going to make everything all right.
The mourners replace the corpse atop the coffee table. Ilenka addresses the crowd in Hungarian. She tells them that that it was this white trash farm girl that threw her grandmother from her home, and now she bears the curse of the Lamia. A mother shields her daughter's eyes from the sight of Stephanie, the cursed one, then hurriedly kisses her crucifix. A man spits at her feet and then walks off.
No, please, I needed her to take this thing off of me.
It will never come off.
You know about it? Please help me, I'm begging you.
She said you'd come begging. I only wish she could have lived to see it.
The blood drains from Stephanie's face.
Maybe she can.
Stephanie glances down to the corpse. Its head is now open. It's facing her. Its dead eyes open. Interior Rham Joss's house night. Stephanie puts her foot through Rham Joss's TV set, shattering the tube, commanding his attention.
Fuck that. I paid you $179 for that book.
It's a limited printing. Please control yourself.
I did what you said. The blood offering. I killed that little kitty deader than Hogan's goat. A lot of good that did me.
We are dealing with elusive and powerful forces. There are no guarantees.
She wants to shout, but instead closes her eyes and sits.
Just tell me what to do, Ron.
Rham Joss considers. A dark look crosses his face. Stephanie tries to read his expression. Close on Stephanie's MasterCard. It's run through the carbon paper. Rham Joss hands her the receipt. She signs it, and he sits.
Must somehow dissuade the spirit from taking your soul.
How?
Seance. And it should be soon. For tomorrow will be the third night.
You've done this before.
No, but I know someone. I can arrange what is necessary, but you must understand that everyone involved in this would be taking a great risk with their lives.
What would you need from me?
Rham Joss thinks for a moment, weighing the dangers. He pulls out a pipe and packs it with tobacco. He tamps it down and lights up.
$20,000 cash tomorrow.
Interior Stephanie's house night. Stephanie is hasty piling all her valuables atop her bed. Sporting equipment, TV, VCR, DVD combo, CD player, iPod, etc. Ellen enters, rattled.
I need to talk to you.
Ellen, I'm sorry. This is a bad time right now. I've got a little emergency and you got any cash I can borrow?
She starts stuffing the valuables into a large duffel bag.
No, I don't. But Steph,
What about your credit cards? What's your cash advance limit? I'll pay you back. You know I'm good for it.
Okay, Steph, we need to talk about the cat.
Where's that little rascal Ben? He's always running off. Have you noticed that?
Stephanie, I was in the backyard and I saw where the ground was dug up. I started digging and you buried the little kitty in our backyard. What happened?
I didn't want to tell you. It fell out the window and died. It's sad.
I found the bloody knife in the bushes.
What are you, a cat detective?
Steph, I'm going to tell you this is your friend. There's something seriously wrong with you.
Stephanie looks up from her frantic panting.
Duh!
I'm moving out. I can't live like this.
Fine.
Ellen exits. Stephanie angrily calls after her.
And don't let the barn door hit you on your ass on the way out.
Interior store later that night. Stephanie is speaking into a payphone.
I can't get the 20,000. You're gonna have to help me with what I've got.
You have.
She covers the mouthpiece, speaking to someone off camera.
How much?
Camera pulls back to reveal that we are in a pawn shop. Men haggle loudly in Arabic over the price of a gold chain. The pawnbroker stands before all of Stephanie's worldly belongings. A toaster oven, computer, racing bike, stereo, microwave oven, necklaces, jewelry. 3,800 for everything.
Including my jewelry?
Including. Stephanie curses under her breath, checks the balance in her checkbook, does the math, and speaks into the phone.
6,000.
I'm sorry, not possible.
Look, I'll give you 6 now, and
No, there will be others involved, and I cannot ask them to accept such a risk for less. Good night.
He hangs up. The line goes dead. She tries to throw the phone, but it's attached to with a short metal cord. She turns to the pawnbroker.
I'll take it.
Stephanie thinks about how she'll get the extra cash. She hesitantly dials a number on the payphone. It rings and rings as she glances to a picture buried deep in her wallet. A photo of the younger, obese Stephanie and her stern-looking mother. Both stand before a bleak, snow-covered Midwestern farm.
Mom? Hi, it's me. Did you get the Christmas card? Yeah, I guess it's been a while. Listen, I'm kind of in a fix here. I've been pretty sick and I need to borrow some money for an operation. I need $14,000 right away. Now I know you could still have the pension fund at the credit union, so yeah, but okay. Okay, it's just that okay, I understand. Okay. Bye, Mom.
The line goes dead. She slumps down against the payphone. Close shot on Stephanie. She pouts her lips in the mirror, carefully applying lipstick. Looking good. Pull back to reveal we're in the employee bathroom at the bank. She fixes her hair so it's just right. She straightens out a little wrinkle in her business suit, smiles her best upbeat smile, and exits the bathroom. Interior Bank of California day. Stephanie approaches Mr. Jacks.
Mr. Jacks, this is kind of awkward for me, and I know it's not official yet, but I was wondering if I could get a copy of the employment contract for the new the new position you offered me.
The assistant manager's position?
Yes. See, one of my family members is having a little emergency, which requires me to get them on the immediate loan.
Stephanie, there's a problem. The McPherson deal was canceled last night.
What?
Yeah, right after I informed the main branch that we had this big loan pending, I find out that they just made their deal over at First National. I got a call in to see what exactly happened, but right now this doesn't look too good for you or for me. So this assistant manager promotion has been delayed. In fact, I think that with everything that's been happening, I'm going to have to give that job to Stu.
Stephanie is devastated.
Stu. I see.
Mr. Jack sees the tears begin to well up in her eyes.
I'm sorry. Look, if you've got family problems, maybe you should take the day off and sort them out.
Stephanie nods and exits the bank. Interior Stephanie's kitchen day. Close shot on the wall clock as it ticks away the seconds. Close shot the inadequate pile of cash that sits atop Stephanie's kitchen table. A close shot on a despondent Stephanie who stares down at the cash. Her mouth mechanically opens to accept a large serving spoon of Rocky Road ice cream, which she eats directly from a 1-gallon tub. The doorbell rings. A moment later, Ray walks in. Stephanie stands, surprised. Ray?
I didn't hear. I don't, but you do. I know this is important for you. I paid Ramjas.
But I thought you didn't believe.
I don't, but you do. I know this is important for you.
She embraces him. Exterior Pasadena house, dusk. An old Pasadena home sits alone atop a hill. Ray's car drives up and parks.
Are you coming in?
I wanted to, but Ramjas said no believers weren't welcome. I still don't like this.
I know how crazy this must seem, but it will be all over after this, I swear.
He nods, and she kisses him.
Call you when it's done.
I'll be waiting.
We'll laugh about this on the train tomorrow.
Yeah.
Stephanie steps from the car, and Ray drives off. She turns to face the old house. Interior, old Pasadena house, study, dusk. Milos, a 30-year-old Hungarian man, leads Stephanie into a large room with tall teak bookshelves and Indian tapestries that adorn the walls. Ramjas is seated in a wicker chair, speaking with someone obscured by shadows.
Miss Brown, allow me the pleasure of an introduction.
The woman rises from the shadows.
Shaun Sandina.
An 80-year-old woman smiles a toothless smile to Stephanie.
Shaun Sandina is an experienced medium. Furthermore, she has a personal knowledge of the Lamia.
I first encountered the spirit 40 years ago in a small village outside of Bucharest.
And?
Lost a young boy's soul to the beast.
That's reassuring.
No. Sorry. It was an inexperienced seer. I was an inexperienced seer then. I've learned much since that hopeful day. I have waited these long years for a chance of redeeming myself, a chance to destroy the foul thing. Tonight my chance will come, but to summon it, I will need your help.
I'll do whatever it takes, and the sooner the better.
Our business must wait till darkness falls. Enough time for tea.
Interior, great room, night. A ceiling 20 feet high with massive windows covered by dark burgundy drapes. An ornate crystal chandelier hangs above a round table at the room's center. Stephanie, Ramjas, Shaun Sandina, and Milos are finishing their tea.
My late husband Sandor was also a medium. He chose this site to build the house upon which because he sensed certain energies that intersected here. He knew I would sense his spirit in this place as I have sensed others. It will be our way of being together after he died. In earlier times, it was a sacred place to the Tontatec Indians, and their stories told that the place was a burial ground of the old ones that inhabited the earth before them. Here, there is a particular alignment of energies, a confluence that allows doorways to be opened through which we might pass.
And through which others might pass into our world.
Milos removes the tea.
It is time for us to begin.
Shaun and Dena turns out the electric lights, leaving only the table's candlelight for illumination. We hear the bleating of a goat. Stephanie startles. Milos re-enters the room, pulling a black goat along by a chain. Ah! The goat catches sight of Stephanie. It bleats in fear and attempts to run, but Milos holds it fast and tethers it to a post. He moves to the table and lifts a velvet cloth, revealing a large cattle slaughtering blade.
Lord Jesus, bless this knife and allow it to do your holy work.
She makes the sign of a cross. She pours a vial of holy water over the blade, and she turns to Stephanie.
Once the spirit has entered me, place my hand upon the animal. Do you understand?
Yes.
I will force the spirit of Lamia into the goat. Milos, that is when you strike.
Stephanie blanches, but remains silent.
We must all be receptive.
Shaun and Dena begins to intone a Romanian gypsy chant. Stephanie leans close to speak quietly with Rham.
What do I have to do?
You must allow the darkness in. You must invite the dead to commingle with your spirit.
Scared.
Yes. Now repeat these words. I welcome the dead into my soul.
Rham waits for Stephanie's response. She shifts in her chair uncomfortably.
I welcome the dead into my soul.
You must believe it.
Stephanie takes a deep breath and they begin to chant again, this time together.
I welcome the dead into my soul. I welcome the dead to my soul.
Stephanie looks around the darkened room. Shadows from the candles dance upon the walls.
I sense something here with us.
Yes.
The parlor's crystal chandelier tinkles. A teacup and saucer tremble for a moment. Stephanie's eyes search the room. Something unseen emits a wheezing breath. We hear footsteps as something walks on the ceiling above them. A loud man's laughter echoes the room.
It is not the Lamia. It is the spirit of some unsettled soul from years ago. The unsettled ones wait near the door.
The pitcher of water upon the table is drained. Then the water is spat out in a stream at Milos's face. The man's laughter again.
Begone, foolish spirit!
There's a howling of wind and the room is again quiet.
Show yourself, Lamia. We invite you to us.
Quiet. Stephanie looks around. Nothing seems to be happening.
He's coming.
A faint sound. Scratch, scratch. Scratching of fingernails on wood, a sound that Stephanie has heard before. It grows louder, more distorted. Scratch, scratch. Stephanie grips the table. And just when the scratching sound is deafening, all becomes silent. Stephanie holds her breath. A wind whips up in the room, sending papers whirling about, yet all the windows are closed. Shaun and Dena's eyes roll up into her head. She emits a low and powerful moan. Her head slumps onto her shoulders. Then she straightens with a new vigor. Stephanie and Rham watch her lips move rapidly and a garbled sound comes from her throat. She speaks in a strange and incomprehensible tongue.
Who now inhabits the body of Shaun and Dena?
Lamia.
Rham nods discreetly to Milos, who quietly uncovers the slaughtering blade.
Lamia, what is it that you desire?
Shaun and Dena's chair abruptly spins about to face Stephanie. The mouth jerks open and closed as if controlled by a bad puppeteer. Then, out of sync, the demonic voice is heard.
The soul of Stephanie Brown, we will feast upon it as she festers in the grave.
It was my manager, Jim Jacks. He was the one.
Silence. Lamia, please, surely we can dissuade you from taking this insignificant woman. Surely she's not worthy of your greatness.
The possessed Shaun Sandina laughs.
No! I will enjoy watching her skin blister and pop in hell's flame.
Stephanie quickly grabs Shaun Sandina's hand and places it on the goat's head. Shaun Sandina's eyes clear for a moment as she struggles to regain control. Now there are two spirits battling within her. She attempts to force the spirit of the Lamia from her body and into the goat. The goat bleats and bucks wildly as the spirit is transferred. Milos races up the slaughtering blade.
No, you!
Trick me! Possessed goat emits a terrible cry, the bone-chilling shriek of the Lamia. Its oval eye reflects the blade as it descends towards it. The possessed goat jerks aside and the blade misses, slicing into the chair. As Milos raises the blade for another blow, the goat bites his hand. In that moment, the spirit of the Lamia is transferred to him. The possessed Milos screams and spins towards Stephanie, glaring at her with black goat eyes. He shouts at her in gibberish of tongues. His body jerks up into the air. He dances a jig atop the table, now laughing uncontrollably. Stephanie watches in horror.
Lamia, I command you to leave this.
A chair sails through the air and shatters across Ramjas's back, knocking him to the ground. Milos's body is hurled up against the chandelier, shattering it. Glass rains down upon Stephanie. On the ceiling, Milos is spun around like a pinwheel. Stephanie races for the door, but a huge bureau lurches in front of her, blocking her path. Ramjas rouses a stunned Shaun Sandina.
You must banish the spirit.
Shaun Sandina places her hands on her eyes, then over her heart, and chants an ancient gypsy incantation up towards Milos. Milos shrieks. A white vapor streams from his body as the Lamia is torn from him.
Stop the chanting, I beg you.
But Shaun Sandina only chants louder. Milos' screams grow more intense as his body spasms in pain. Stephanie grasps at Shaun Sandina.
For God's sake, stop the chanting. It's killing him.
Ramjas pushes her aside.
You must not stop.
A withered pair of hands reaches down from above and clutch at Stephanie's face. It's Mrs. Ganush that now floats above her, her long yellowed fingernails scratching at Stephanie's skin.
Make her stop, you dirty pork queen.
Dirty pork queen.
No, get her off.
Mrs. Ganush grabs at Stephanie's head. Stephanie pulls away, but it costs her a clump of hair that Mrs. Ganush rips from her head. Mrs. Ganush opens her mouth wide, wider still, and she vomits out Stephanie's dead cat. It lands atop the table. Stephanie screams uncontrollably. Shaun Sandina is trembling as her chanting comes to a climax. Mrs. Ganush charges back to the possessed Milos. The last of the white vapor is torn from Milos' body as the spirit of the Lamia leaves him. Milos falls to the floor and all is quiet. An ashen-faced Shaun Sandina halts her chant.
Is it gone?
Stephanie notices that the cat has vanished. Was it ever there? Ramjas kneels at Milos' side. He's starting to come around. Milos stands, shaken. The Lamia is gone. Shaun Sandina grabs at her chest and struggles for breath. Stephanie rushes over to steady her.
Let me help you.
My heart.
Shaun Sandina collapses into Stephanie's arms. Ramjas moves to assist her. They lower Shaun Sandina to the floor.
Milos, call an ambulance.
Milos rushes from the room to call for help. Ramjas checks for a pulse.
He's not breathing.
Ramjas attempts to administer CPR to no avail.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
He checks her pulse one last time. The CPR is finally halted. Ramjas closes her eyes, then touches her forehead, praying.
Gata, gata, paragata, odi, swaha. Gone, gone, gone beyond. Gone beyond the beyond. Hail the goer.
Exterior Pasadena house night later. Stephanie and Ramjas watch as paramedics load the covered body of Shaun Sandina into the ambulance. They close the doors and drive away.
Sad.
Yes.
Strange how things work out. She waited for years for another chance to overcome the Lamia and finally did.
No, I'm afraid you misunderstand.
Ramjas looked at her with pity.
What?
The Lamia cannot be banished by a medium. This was our lesson tonight. I'm sorry.
But I saw her get rid of that thing.
No, you saw her drive the Lamia from the seance. That is all. It will be back.
But what am I supposed to do?
Josh shrugs. He fishes in his pocket for his car keys.
Perhaps on this final evening you should finish up the business of this world. But before the night is through, the Lamia will come for the owner of the accursed object.
Stephanie's hand slowly emerges from her coat pocket. She studies the thin brass button in her palm.
Yes, of course, you are no longer the owner.
No longer the owner. I don't understand.
Ramjas reaches into his coat pocket and removes a blank envelope. He places the button within and seals it.
The Lamia comes for the owner of the accursed object. Just make a gift of it.
To demonstrate, he hands the envelope to Stephanie.
You've given away the curse.
Why didn't you just tell me this before?
Because we are speaking of murder.
Stephanie looks from the envelope containing the button to Ramjas. She places the envelope carefully into the side pocket of her purse. Ramjas tries to conceal the sadness and fear he feels for her.
Whatever you decide, you have until sunrise.
She nods goodbye as Ray's car pulls up. Ray opens the door for her, and she gets in. Interior Ray's BMW night. Ray and Stephanie drive through the quiet Pasadena neighborhood.
Are you okay?
Stephanie stares at her envelope, thinks about telling him, then...
Yes. It's all over.
Ray squeezes her hand, appreciating the two of them now more than ever. Stephanie screams as Mrs. Ganush appears in the headlights, standing in the road before them. Ray hits the brakes. The car screeches to a halt. Stephanie's purse and the envelope and some of Ray's papers fall to the floor.
Are you okay?
Stephanie nods, catching her breath.
That guy came out of nowhere. Stephanie looks to
the figure in the road. Mrs. Ganush is gone. In her place is an old man who mutters angrily at them and moves on. Exterior Stephanie's house night later. Ray's BMW pulls up and Stephanie gets out.
Are you still okay about the Santa Barbara trip?
Yes, everything's fine.
Okay, our train leaves tomorrow morning. Do you want me?
It's better if we meet at the D station. There's something I've got to do on my way.
Stephanie suddenly clutched at her purse. The envelope is gone.
Wait, where's my envelope?
What envelope?
She opens the car door and frantically rummages around the floor through Ray's papers.
It's got to be here.
Then Stephanie comes upon something under the seat. She smiles and stands, a white envelope held tightly in her hand.
Got it.
Tomorrow's going to be a new start for us. Don't be late.
They kiss and Ray drives off. Interior Denny's restaurant night. A wall clock. The time is 1:30 a.m. Stephanie drinks coffee and stares at the white envelope that's tucked into the side pocket of her purse. She scans the patrons and considers giving it to each of them, then one by one rejects the idea. A waitress comes by, removes a dirty dish, and refills her coffee.
Banana boat Sunday. Another one?
Stephanie nods absently. The waitress exits. The wall clock. The time is now 2:15 a.m. A withered old man sits alone at a table in a wheelchair, a portable oxygen cylinder supplying him with air. Stephanie takes a deep breath, stands, and walks to his table.
I wonder if you could help me out?
Yeah?
I just need you to hang on this envelope for me, just until tomorrow.
She extends the envelope to him. He hesitates.
What's this all about?
Just take the envelope and I'll explain, please.
The old man considers. He reaches for the envelope and an old woman, his wife, hobbles towards the table. The old man helps her and puts away her cane. They turn to Stephanie, who withdraws the envelope.
Never mind.
Stephanie returns to her seat, ashamed of what she almost did. She returns the envelope to her purse pocket, racking her brain, trying to think of some way out of this. Her gaze lands upon a stack of newspapers on the next table. She grabs the paper and finds the obituaries. Close on the newspaper, on Mrs. Ganush's obituary, the picture of the old woman, the location of the burial is listed, Oakwood Cemetery. Stephanie rips the listing from the paper and rushes from the restaurant. Interior Rham Joss's house, back room, night. Stephanie, lit by a barren light bulb, paces the room. Rham Joss is in his pajamas and studies an old leather-bound text.
Well, is it possible?
He closes the book and gives it some thought.
There are gypsy blessings that are bestowed upon the dead, and the gypsies give gifts to their departed to curry favor with the deceased soul. Yes, I do believe you could give the curse to someone who has passed on, for truly the soul never dies.
Interior Stephanie's car, night. Close on Stephanie as she drives, we hear the voiceover from the preceding scene.
But you must make a formal gift of the cursed object to the deceased.
Formal gift?
Car headlights sweep over her grim face. She fingers the envelope, then glances in the seat next to her. A shovel.
Give it to the corpse personally. Put it in their hand, their pocket.
Oh, I'll do better than that.
Camera moves in tight.
Shove it down her goddamn throat.
She zips up her raincoat. Something flits past the window, too quick to see. Then it reappears. It's Mrs. Ganush's hanky. It flies against the windshield and gets caught in the wiper blade. Stephanie gasps. It flaps in the wind, blocking her view. Stephanie hits the wiper button. The hanky is yanked back and forth across the windshield. She turns up the wiper speed. No sooner is it knocked loose than it's whisked into the driver's side window. It slaps over Stephanie's eyes, plastered there by the wind. The car swerves. Her car crashes into a tree. Long shot of the crashed car. Stephanie pulls herself from the crash. She glances up to a flash of lightning. It illuminates the wrought iron gates of the Oakwood Cemetery. A hill of tombstones beyond. Exterior Oakwood Cemetery, rainy night. A light drizzle falls as Stephanie searches the graveyard for the burial place of Mrs. Ganush. She carries the shovel defensively, ready to swat at anything that might leap out at her. She stops before a freshly dug grave. A temporary marker reads the name, Sylvia Ganush. She's scared now, not sure if she can really go through with it. A church bell tolls 5 times. There's no time to think about it. Stephanie looks around to make sure no one is watching, and then starts to dig. Dissolve 2. Later, it's raining harder. The hole Stephanie digs is now several feet deep. Clunk. The shovel has hit the buried coffin. The rain intensifies. Dissolve 2. Later. Mud is pouring down the sides of the grave. In the bottom of the pit, Stephanie has unearthed the simple pine casket. She jams the shovel blade between the 2 boards and pries off the coffin's top and shoves it aside. A lightning flash illuminates the corpse. Mrs. Ganush's white eye is open and staring at Stephanie. Stephanie stows her fear and pulls the white envelope from her coat.
I'm giving it back to you.
She grabs Mrs. Ganush's hand and tries to get her clenched fist to open, but rigor mortis has locked it shut. Stephanie pulls with all her might, causing Mrs. Ganush's corpse to lurch up and out of the coffin. Her dead arms, thrown forward from the momentum, wrap around Stephanie. Stephanie screams. The withered face leers. Stephanie pushes the corpse away from her, and the lifeless body falls back into the mud.
Ugh, you'll take it all right.
She picks up the shovel and jams the blade into the old woman's mouth, wedging it between her teeth. She pries the jaw open. Mud and rivulets of water begin pouring down into the grave from all sides. The body of Mrs. Ganush is quickly being reburied.
I, Stephanie Brown, do hereby make you a formal gift of this button to you, Sylvia Ganush.
She jams the white envelope down the old woman's throat.
Choke on it, bitch.
She kicks the old woman's jaw. It snaps shut, trapping the envelope between her broken teeth. Muddy water cascades down into the grave, flowing over Mrs. Ganush's face. It covers everything except for the jutting envelope and a single staring white eye. Stephanie tries to climb out, but the walls are too slick. She grabs at a clump of sod at the top of the hole, but it tears away, unleashing an avalanche of mud that buries her up to her armpits. The head of Mrs. Ganush bobs up through the mud. The old woman is grinning, the envelope still jammed between her teeth. Long shot of the grave, as rivers of muddy water now pour in from every direction. It has become the drain hole of the cemetery. With the influx of mud, it pushes the old woman's corpse against Stephanie. Her grinning face, lead mashed against Stephanie's cheek. Stephanie's scream is cut short as she and Mrs. Ganush disappear beneath the mud. The only sound is the pitter-patter of the rain. The camera starts to pull away when Stephanie's hand rips through the mud, grasping the tree root. Stephanie's hand breaks the surface of the mud, sucking in air. She claws her way out, then staggering away through the pouring rain. Dissolve 2, interior, Stephanie's house, bathroom, pre-dawn. Stephanie steps from the shower, quickly towels her hair. She stops for a moment and studies herself in the mirror. She has survived. The phone rings in the bedroom and the machine picks up.
Stephanie, it's Jim Jacks. Sorry I'm calling so early, but last night I found some troubling information about our friend Stu Rubin.
Dissolve 2, exterior city street, pre-dawn. A cleaned up Stephanie, her hair still wet from the shower, drives the empty morning streets. A smile slowly comes to her face as we hear the rest of Mr. Jack's message.
Apparently, he stole your file on the McPherson loan and then tried to broker his own deal at First Federal. I guess he thought we wouldn't find out. When I confronted him, he broke down crying, and, well, we won't be seeing him around anymore.
Exterior train station, parking lot, pre-dawn. The eastern sky is growing brighter. Stephanie's car pulls into the lot. She removes a weekend bag from her trunk and walks briskly towards the station.
It looks like the loan's coming back to us, and I just wanted you to know that come Monday morning, that assistant manager's position will be waiting for you.
Interior train station, grand entrance, pre-dawn. Stephanie is smiling as she enters the station. A Mrs. Fields representative holds up a platter of freshly baked cookies and offers free samples to passerbys. One is offered to Stephanie. She politely declines as she walks past with a bounce in her step. Interior train station, clothing boutique. She stops at a window, admiring a coat on display. Inside, she glances down at her own coat, notes the missing button with distaste. Inside, a saleswoman is preparing to open the shop. Stephanie taps on the window and shouts through the glass.
Hey, good morning.
The saleswoman opens the door a crack.
Sorry, we're not open yet.
Please, I know what I want. That coat in the window.
The saleswoman considers.
My boyfriend and I are taking a very special trip this morning.
Stephanie's smile is bright. Her joy is contagious. The saleswoman relents and lets Stephanie in. Exterior train station, train platform, dawn. Moments before sunrise, the sky is streaked red. Ray waits on the train platform, clutching 2 tickets and a small garment bag. Behind him, other passengers arrive. From his pocket, he removes a velvet case. He opens it and peeks inside. A diamond ring. He stows it back in his pocket. He looks for Stephanie. Then his face brightens as Stephanie emerges from the crowd, radiant in her new coat.
Ray!
Ray embraces her and grabs her luggage. A train whistle sounds as the train approaches.
Are you okay? Is everything okay?
Great.
I'm so glad you're here. There's so much I've been meaning to tell you.
She takes his hand.
But let me say this first, while I have it straight in my head. You never stop believing in me. I'll try to live up to that.
They share an intimate moment. A romantic kiss. He breaks off and smiles.
Did I tell you you look great?
Thanks.
Stephanie models her new coat.
You like it? It's brand new.
What'd you do with your old coat?
Just the mention of it makes her face darken.
I got rid of it. I never want to see it again.
Too bad, because I just found this.
Ray produces the envelope, and from it, withdraws the cursed button. Camera races into a huge close-up of the button with a terrible clashing of symbols. Stephanie can't breathe.
Yeah, it was in my car. Hey, have you seen my Indian head nickel? I put in an envelope just like this one.
Stephanie stares at the button, shaking her head in disbelief. The rumbling of the approaching train builds on the soundtrack.
What? What is it?
She backs away in horror, but Ray follows her with the button still in his hand. The rumbling grows louder. She's backing up towards the edge of the platform.
Stephanie, stop.
Ray steps forward, still holding the button. Stephanie shrieks as she falls backwards off the platform and onto the track. In the last moment of life, She turns her head to see the oncoming train racing at her. Through the swirling smoke, the engine's mechanical face, it resembles the goat-like face of the demon Lamia. It vomits steam as it angrily bears down upon her. The train whistle shrieks. Stephanie recognizes the sound. It's the cry she's heard before, in every door creak and every cold night wind, a haunting, soulless sound, the cry of the Lamia. Ray races to the edge of the platform. The two lovers' eyes find each other one last time. Stephanie screams as the Lamia swallows her and pulls her down into hell. The people on the platform believe they have just witnessed a train accident, but Ray knows the truth. He looks to the button, still in his hand. Camera moves closer on Ray, a look of dread. Finally, he believes. And that is the semi-dark and twisted end of Miss Stephanie Brown. Thank you all so much for joining us for this one. It was a little dark in places, but I had fun with this reading. So hopefully y'all enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.